So what do we find about our governance? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't Chris Roebling. This ain't Chris Roebling up here. It's not Jim Landahl up here. It's not Pam Bilesma, who's a great hire, and we're delighted to have her. It's not any of you up here. Hazard, Young, and Atiyeh was founded by a guy I studied under at New Trier High School when I was a kid. But they were hired by the board. They found Pam for us. They helped David and the board find Dr. Skinkis. Hazard, Young, and Atiyeh had to do an assessment in the fall of 2009. And when they did, they came back and they said, you know, these are some of the needs. These are the needs around here. And you got to work with the board in developing a strong relationship based on agreed upon understanding of respective roles and commitment to resolve critical issues, common mission, thereby regaining the confidence of all constituents and restoring the integrity of the district. This is something that Ham and I talked about the first time we had a cup of coffee. Why was the integrity of the district in need of restoration? Why was it in need of restoration? Folks, we had a certification problem. We had non-employees who were getting health care. And by the way, I'm going to put this on some website. Each one of these you can tell which are links. They all link to Bob Uphues or to the Suburban Life or to the Chicago Tribune, wherever it goes, or to a document from the board. To a document from the board. We had coaches. We had an assistant wrestling coach who had a string of arrests as long as your arm. We failed to do our background checks correctly. We had a nepotism problem on the board. We had somebody who went on the board, and it was a relative, and it was contravening some of the policies, so they changed the policy. They didn't put the new policy into the policy manual. It's next. That's just in the personnel area. General area. We had the soccer safety. Anybody here who's got a kid who plays soccer, you know we had this problem. We had an athletic director. He refused to ground the soccer goals so that they wouldn't fall over, hit some kid on the head, and kill him. Because kids around the globe, not the country, not the state, not the county, around the world have been killed by the kind of goals we had. He refused. Nobody on the board said, you've got to do it the right way. They looked the other way. Thank God Dr. Bennett showed up. And within 3 days, the soccer goals were anchored properly and nobody was ever hurt. But that's not instilling confidence, and that's not instilling integrity. We've got the booster financing problem, the MRSA problem, the FOIA finding. If you go back to January 2009 and check out your Suburban Life, you will see a takeout, which is my speak for a long article, on the FOIA problems at RB. Many of them have been addressed, but I FOIA'd Elizabeth's work relationship with the school. Did you know that? Never got it. Still waiting. Never came. Why? Don't know. You can ask. Finance. I am so excited that the building I worked on, a floor space volunteer, has finally been built. It was a $60 million item, and ladies and gentlemen, you don't have an audited financial on it. You don't. You don't. You don't. Not one of us. I went to a lot of the meetings. I heard the cheery report. Hey, it's more contracts left. On time, under budget, everybody's happy. Well, you know what? I spent a lot of time as a reporter, government, politics. I've had the privilege of teaching journalism students, and I've always said, budgets are press releases. They're ways of officials telling you what you want to hear and what they want to say. Audits are facts. There's no audit for a $60 million item. None. I don't even think there's a motion pending at the board today to hire anybody to do the audit. And I think that's an outrage. We lost $500,000 to $750,000 green dollars because Larry chose to open something called the Paw on the Cyber Dog. I FOIA'd for a copy of the curricular plan. There was no curricular plan. There's no audit. There's no paper trail of the dollars that went out the door. That's $500,000 to $750,000 not in the account today, and we've heard today about belt tightening and things like this. Now, I'm not saying we're all going to go out there and find the 500. That money is gone. That project was a waste. There was no curricular report. Not only was there not a curricular plan at the front end, ladies and gentlemen, there was no curricular report at the back end. Your money out the door, no benefit. Insurance claims, let's just thank you. So yesterday's mistakes, let me review. January 2008, if you were on the board, you would be looking forward through the year 2008, and you would know, as they did, that they were running out of money. They knew that as of the 30th of June, they would have less than 60 days in their working cash flow. So what did they do? In April, they agreed to a contract. We'll get back to that in a second. In July, their reserves were less than 60 days of bills. Okay? Now, I've heard about the state of Illinois. I've heard about the county treasurer. I've heard about the county government not getting the money over. I understand all of them. And I know about the Board of Tax Appeals. And every one of those is an issue. And not one of them is before you in the vote in April. Not one. Faced with less than 60 days of working cash, in August, it wasn't 40. There you go. It wasn't 65, according to the documents. You were in private conversation. I don't doubt what you say about the private conversation. The document, which we'll see one in a minute, it was 20 cents of a raise in 2010 and grabbing a school board payday loan of $4.9 million, the total cost of which is what we heard earlier, $5.4. Now, that didn't come easy because there was a big obstacle between the board and its bankrupt treasury and getting the $4.9 million from the bonds that Elizabeth sold. Why? That big boulder was called 1,800 of us. 1,800 residents. 1,800 District 208 residents signed a petition saying, stop! Don't borrow that money. Go out to the referendum. Ask the voters. Those 1,870 signatures went to Larry. He found 75 or 80 of them invalid. He may have been right. Let's just say he was right, because he's a good guy. 75 were valid, bad signatures. I know there was one guy from Chicago who signed. Okay, fine. 75 come off. Now you're at 1,795. Did you hear the board say, we're going to go out anyway because 1,800 people don't walk in here every day and ask us for a referendum? No, you didn't. The sound you heard was selling paper out of William Blair. So in September, with the 1,800 residents ignored, and by the way, I was out getting petition signatures at Brookfield, and I could not keep up. The only problem is we started late. If we'd started a little earlier, we would have 2,400. They sold $4.9 million in bonds. After saying at the meeting in August that they would sell the 4.9 in paper and raise taxes by 20 cents, they sold the 4.9 million in September, and now they're raising taxes by 44 cents. It wasn't the 20 cents they said in August of 2008, ladies and gentlemen. It's more than twice as much. And I'm not telling you that they sent out a press release saying, hey, we're going to raise your taxes by 20 cents. They didn't do that. You had to be a geek. You had to be somebody who was looking at all of the short strokes to find it, because it's not easy to find, but that's what they said. And this is what they're doing. 44 cents. So what do we got it's just, the prior one said yesterday's mistakes make, and now it says make today's mistakes. Our budget over there operating, give or take, 20 million. Our salaries over there, give or take, 16 million. The certified staff under the RBEA contract, give or take, 14 million. Now these aren't exactly, that's why I got the wave, I don't have the equals, I got the wave. With a cumulative pay raise of more than 5% per year, average across all the steps and all the layers, you are talking about look at that 14 million. That 14 million is growing every year by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 large. 7 large, folks, coming from us. Coming from us. Now, if you heard the earlier statement and you're all okay with that, I'm here to tell you to go vote for the referendum. Do it. God bless you. And I salute you for taking part. But I think we've got to take a closer look. Here we go. This is our document. I've got this up. When this goes on the web someplace, you'll be able to see it. I mean, you can come up here and see it. But this is the difference. There's the point 2 from the presentation back in August of 2008. That's a Word document. It's not a Word document. Actually, I think that's a William Blair document. Let's get it. Okay? And here's another William Blair document. And this is the one that lays out, you know, the averages. Okay, so I mean, we've got all of this on the paper. And so now let's take a look at the comparison. And this, I really want to ask you, please take a second, take a deep breath. I'm going to tell you something now that you haven't heard from our friends. You haven't heard from Larry. You haven't heard from my friend David Bennett, great guy. My friend Jim Marciniak, president of the board. You haven't heard from him. When I came out and played my teeny tiny part on the building, we said, hey, we need 60 million. And that was pretty clear. What's this number over here? We said we needed 60 million over 20 years. Now, Larry, correctly, I was working with him at that time, said 240 a year at a basic 300,000. Elizabeth here said, William Blair said 418 a year for the Ed Fund in 2011. This is the boring part, and I'm going to skip, unless you want to hear it. But when you're borrowing a lot of money, you're getting cash today, and you're paying for a long time. When you're raising a lot of money, it represents a new tranche of capital, a new revenue stream.